Commencing virtuous mission now.
When MGS5 was released and Konami and Kojima went their separate ways, I remember feeling deeply sad and concerned for the future of the MGS series. How could it go on without Hideo Kojima at the helm, the director of the series? Thankfully, MGS5 turned out to be a decent game despite feeling unfinished. But then, in 2018, Konami released Metal Gear Survive, and my heart just sank. I remember thinking that this was truly it now for MGS. All we'd get were crappy spin-off games that used the Metal Gear name for clout. This paired with the MGS3 pachinko machines and the odd cameo of Metal Gear characters in games like Bomberman, or the delisting of the MGS HD collection from digital stores. The future of MGS felt truly bleak. If I'm honest, part of the reason why I started up my channel and began to steer it towards being an MGS fan channel was to try and keep the franchise alive in whatever small way I could. But it feels that since the announcement of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, a glimmer of hope has ignited amongst the fanbase again. While I was certainly hyped by the reveal trailer, I couldn't help but feel cautiously optimistic for the remake. I was excited to see that the rumours were finally true, as we had heard about it for so long without official confirmation. But I was worried that the Konami of Metal Gear Survive were going to be the ones behind this. However, there just seems to be a different vibe about Konami lately. I'm sure many of you have already seen part 2 of the MGS Legacy series, in which David Hayter interviewed Noriaki Okamura, the producer of MGS Delta. I was so pleasantly surprised by how Okamura came across in this interview while talking about the development of Delta. It truly felt like he cared about the project and wanted to create a remake that honoured the original while modernising it for current gameplay standards. Also, knowing that he had been a producer on previous MGS titles, such as Portable Ops and the digital graphic novel, filled me with a sense of trust. We also found out that some of the crew from the original game were part of the development team for Delta 2. But there was a moment in the interview from Okamura where he talked about the unsatisfactory feedback to the MGS Master Collection and how he and the team were truly impacted by the feedback and were working on improving the collection. He also encouraged criticism from the fans in order to keep the team honest and ensure that they are the right team to carry the torch for the Metal Gear series going forward. Just hearing this type of sentiment come from an employee of Konami, of all companies, is really refreshing, and feels that perhaps, at least on a cultural level, Konami may have changed somewhat since 2018. We've also seen a ton more footage from the remake since the announcement trailer, particularly in the Xbox Showcase for 2024, in which we got a new trailer, and then later on Konami released a new episode from their own Metal Gear Production Hotline series, in which they showed off some of the cool features they're adding to the remake. The features that have particularly stuck out to me are the legacy features, where you're able to play the game with the original camera setup, or even the original colour filter, lovingly named Pitch Yellow in the fanbase, along with other colour filter options too. It feels like there's potential for plenty of replayability with this remake, and I'm sure the team have even more surprises up their sleeve too. But if I had one criticism of what we've seen from the MGS Delta footage so far, it's that it appears they haven't really changed up the system for swapping camouflage in the game. You'll still have to pause the game whenever you want to swap camo, which has always been a major flaw for me with MGS3, as I feel like it breaks up the flow of the game far too often. I was hoping that there would be a way to do this during gameplay, such as being able to hotkey a few camo options to the D-pad, where perhaps Snake hides inside a box for a few seconds to change, a bit like how it was done in MGS5. But who knows, perhaps they are working on something like this, and they just haven't shown it off yet. In the interview with Okamura, he also mentioned that part of the reason why they wanted to do MGS Delta and the Master Collection was that they had realised that newer gamers weren't really aware of Metal Gear anymore, which just feels astonishing to hear, considering how impactful the series has been to the gaming industry. So, although the Master Collection may not have been released in the perfect state, I am still glad that these games are now accessible on a range of modern consoles and PC, and perhaps when MGS Delta is released, the series will have a surge of new fans, and Metal Gear will be well known amongst the younger generation of gamers. Now, there's still time for Konami to completely mess it up with the remake, but I feel like you can usually tell fairly early on when the development of a game isn't going too well, as it's quite a hard thing to cover up. I guess we won't know until we are playing the game ourselves, but for the first time in a long while, I truly feel excited for the future of Metal Gear Solid again. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the development of MGS Delta so far, and how you're feeling about the future of the series. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.